Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
He hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. We're here back for day 2 this week. Dylan Sinn with me from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. How are you doing, man?
I'm good. Good morning, Jim. Happy to be on. Thanks for having me on, as always.
Happy to have you as always as well. Our, of course, Indiana Sports Beat Radio brought to you by our great friends at Andy Moore Honda, the #1 Honda dealer around, and the great folks from Endeavor Hospitality, the WOW Club. Make sure you go there and get signed up. You can go to your Apple App Store, Google Play Store. It's easy, free. Sign up, start earning WOW rewards today with great places in and around Bloomington, but also like BB's Market, where you can order online from bbsmarket.com, meats, steaks, sausages, and we'll have some packages coming soon for that. But great show today, Dylan. Besides you being here, that makes it great already. But Bob Kravitz, we could stop there. Cal Neddenriep. We'll hear from Jordan Geronimo, who met with the media yesterday, and Caleb Knost gives us a report on the Pete's Jam, what's going on down there. We've got the MLB draft, 3 IU players drafted. Geez, man, a little bit going on, a little bit to talk about, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. We're getting toward the time of year where we're gonna have too much to talk about. So
someone was asking me the other day, how's it been? I was like, it's great right now because it's been normal. It's a normal work schedule that, if I was just a regular worker, probably working the normal amount of hours that I would have if I had a 40-hour job week right now. That's calm. That's the lull. That's the low point, unfortunately, because I know that at the end of next month, it's over, baby. For the next 8 months, it goes to 6 and 7 days a week, because we're here every day, and then football game every Saturday, and then you kick in soccer, and basketball starts, and it's like, forget about it. But great stuff. I'm happy to be here. Happy to have everyone jumping on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. If wherever you're listening to us, either on the Ref, WREF down in Evansville, or BRO and Marengo, all you guys, appreciate you so much, as well as everybody on YouTube. Make sure to go there and subscribe, sign up, hit like. Make sure you give Dylan Sinn a follow on Twitter, and myself as well at Jim Coyle ISB. What's new with you, and what have you been writing about it up at Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette, man?
Yeah, well, we have I've been doing some Fort Wayne Tin Caps baseball, as always. That's my main summer project, but I will have some
Pirates, right?
Padres, actually.
Padres. I
Yeah.
know there's something, and I never get it because, and I've said this before when you told me this last time, I know that generally you normally have your minor league teams kind of within
Yes.
a region that's close to you,
Right.
And for obvious reasons to kind of develop a fan base. So it makes absolutely zero freaking sense for the Padres, the San Diego Padres, to have a farm team in Northeast Indiana.
Right. They are the furthest, I believe they are the furthest away from the parent club of any of the 120 minor league teams right now.
Unless somebody's got a team up in New York from out there.
Yeah, exactly. And so they have the thing with the Tin Caps, though, is they have one of the best stadiums in minor league baseball, definitely the best stadium in high A. So they have that to recommend them, which which helps significantly. And they put a lot of players into the next level. So they do a good job. But I will have some IU content out here over the next few days. I'll have a story out here for on IU tomorrow, the day after, and on Sunday. So we have some IU content coming up for you this week at journalgazette.net. And we also have a story today on a player from Fort Wayne. Went to Bishop Dwenger, went to Ivy Tech Community College to play baseball, and was drafted by the Chicago Cubs yesterday, and Matthew Peters. So
is he the first player in the history of the world to get drafted out of Ivy Tech Community College?
He is the first player to get drafted out of Ivy Tech and might well be the last. Their baseball program is shutting down after the 2023 season.
What a great oh wow. Talk about
Yes.
a trivia question. Better write that down.
Yes.
Who was the only player ever drafted in a major league draft from Ivy Tech?
Yes. And it's a great story. He was 5'9".
Well, it'd be a better story. It'd be. I'm not to interrupt you, but it'd be a
No
better
problem.
story if they put it in their commercials.
Yeah.
Little guy putting the circuit board together. You could, and then all of a sudden you get a pitcher.
Yeah. And
That would be incredible.
Exactly. And the thing is, I mean, he's it's not some guy who soft tossed it up there and the Cubs took him because he has a decent changeup or something like that. He was out there. He hit 103 on some scouts' radar guns this spring. He went from 5'9", 150 pounds his senior year of high school. Didn't have any Division I offers or anything like that. Went to community college and transferred a couple times from community college. And by the time he got to Ivy Tech, he had grown significantly. He's now 6'4", 220. And throws 103 with a huge slider. So
funny how that growth spurt just changes life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he grew 9 inches basically at some from the time he was middle of his senior year of high school to now. So really, really impressive story for him. And he was drafted in the 12th round. So congratulations to him. He'll have to decide whether to play for the sign with the Cubs or go to Miami, Ohio to continue his college career.
Well, good luck for him. Also, the MLB, does the draft continue today?
I believe they're done, right? It's
how many rounds do they have? Like 6,000 rounds?
Well, they used to have 40, and then they cut it down to 20. And they got through round 20 yesterday. I think they're done. So because they cut down the draft pretty significantly in terms of how many rounds there are back when they cut it down to 5 during COVID, if you'll recall, and then they raised it back to 20. And that was part of the collective bargaining agreements they signed. So I believe they're done.
Oh man, the Peach Jam is underway down south. Have you been paying attention to that at all? We'll talk about that later. Caleb Knost will join us to get us updated on that. But you can also go to thehoosier.com and you will find complete and up-to-date live updates each and every day. As that has been there, you can go back and look at Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays, today's. Everything is there. Man, a lot of talent down there. A lot of talent that Indiana's chasing. Arrington Page, Brady Dunlap, LeBron James Jr. is there. Bronny, he's down there. Not that IU is chasing him, but wouldn't that be something? Where is he going to go? Is there an indication?
They said that Duke is the front runner. I don't know if he's that good. Duke wants obviously a bunch of 5-star guys. I think Bronny is more of a 4-star. He's not.
Yeah, but you would take him just for the name that would bring and all that there is. I think
that is true. Because that was what I heard originally, was that Duke was in the driver's seat for him, mostly because LeBron played for Coach K in the Olympics, and so they have a relationship from there. But obviously the usual suspects are in on him: Kentucky, Kansas, Carolina, those. But it doesn't seem like he has a top 5 or anything like that.
He's only 6'2", 170. He's nothing physically to speak of. Because I look at a guy like Jalen Harrelson, who Indiana is chasing, and I'm like, he would knock his dude into the 6th row if they were playing. I mean, Harrelson's a beast.
Yeah.
A freaking beast. And that's exactly what Indiana's recruiting, people. That is what Mike Woodson is going. He's not going after your typical guys anymore. He's going after the beasts. He's going after the top guys. He's going after the best he can get at every position, and it doesn't matter where the hell they live. Were born or grew up playing. Arrington Page, another one of those guys, big 6'9" dude, 6'9", 225 from Georgia. That Georgia pipeline that you'll hear about later. We'll talk about that a little bit with Caleb Knost. He's doing a piece on that, I believe. But you got and I didn't know this. There's like a little Georgia pipeline, Dylan, and it goes all the way back to Joby Wright.
Wow. I mean, already in Mike Woodson's tenure, they've gotten commitments from Caleb Banks and Ja'Kai Newton, who are both Georgia kids. So, I mean, it makes sense.
And I can think quickly, not Rob Johnson necessarily, but wasn't one of those guards of Archie's that Archie had. Somebody was from Georgia. Josh Newkirk? Was Josh Newkirk?
Josh Newkirk might have been, but he was a transfer. He went to Pittsburgh first. But Josh Newkirk is from North Carolina. Rob Johnson, where was Rob Johnson from? Well, I haven't thought about him in several years here. I was actually looking him up yesterday because I was looking to see Rob Johnson's from Richmond, Virginia. So he's not from Georgia.
There's been a few, but there's been a few others though, I remember. So we'll have to look at it. Anyway, that's what Caleb's doing a piece on. So, but we'll talk about him too, and to him rather, and get that out. But the Peach Jam underway, man, happening. You can go to thehoosier.com for complete live updates, like I said, as to what's going on. Brady Dunlap, he had 14 points on 4 of 14 shooting yesterday. That wasn't great. Dylan Harper was tremendous apparently yesterday. Alex said he had great vision and the ability to make the right passes. It's been the biggest takeaway for Alec on him over those few days down there. He can play both on and off the ball, and he's been a main playmaker for his teammates, up to 14 points on 3 of 4 shooting and 6 of 10 from the free throw line, 4 rebounds and 7 assists. Wow. Still with 8 minutes to play. So there's a 6'3" guard, shooting guard from Don Bosco Prep up in New Jersey.
IU has an uphill battle to get him, because if you'll recall that he is the brother of former Rutgers guard and star Ron Harper Jr. And this was something of a controversy earlier this year when Ron Harper Jr. said the fans at Assembly Hall were not nice to him. And so I would assume he is in his brother's ear at least a little bit, saying, "Hey man, whatever you want to do, but also maybe avoid IU." So it's probably an uphill battle for.
But you know how brothers are, man. Hey, I'm going to forge my own path, and guess what? They're also going to say, "Well, they're being pretty damn nice to me. You ought to see this NIL deal I just got off."
You know what? That's fair. Maybe it's one of those things where.
And they have a hell of a team. You're going to turn down playing on this team as opposed to playing on whatever Rutgers team has? No.
That's true. Absolutely. They maybe they can convince him, "Hey, come here. We'll show you a whole lot of love when you get on campus, and you'll see what the IU crowd is really like as the star of our team." But it's just an interesting dynamic, because obviously Ron Harper Jr. hit that shot. That for a few days there looked like it was going to keep IU out of the NCAA tournament last year, and he heard it a little bit from the crowd, as we know, and if his brother ends up coming to Bloomington, boy, that would be an interesting subplot, wouldn't it?
Well, we'll certainly find out. We've got to take a break, because coming up next, the great, the wonderful, the incredible Bob Kravitz from The Athletic joins us. Looking forward to it. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our great friends at Metalworks Brewing Company, all part of the Wild Club, Wild Network as well. Located just off of the square in Bloomington, former Funk Fusion Brewery on 6th Street, just off the northeast corner. Make sure you stop by, and they have new brews and new food and a new menu. We're back with more Bob Kravitz right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting There he is. Oh, what, are we on vacation?
No. I'm working. This is my work clothes.
Oh, I was talking about the background. It's so different.
Oh no. I'm doing it from my kitchen. Does it look okay?
Oh, it
Yeah,
looks
it looks
great. I thought you were in Florida or something. It's nice and
God,
bright.
no. Hey, by the way, thank you for helping me with all those phone numbers. That story I did last week.
Dude, we talked about it.
It fucking blew up. I got the second most subscriptions I've ever gotten.
Wow.
Congratulations. I am so glad.
107.
I am so glad we could help because it was I loved reading it, and it was awesome. It's the greatest article that was not an article, but a finely strung together, perfectly strung together.
Just oral history, we call it.
Yeah, it was just, but it was like, it just kept leading you right. Boom, boom. It's just a great story. I don't know if Dylan, if you got to see it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Great. I enjoyed Bob, your comment about the guy who had Archie Miller as his pen pal. I appreciated that.
Oh my God! Well, he wrote back to me 3 times. Yeah, he got plenty of time because he ain't coaching.
Oh my God, that was
made me laugh.
nothing short of master strokes. That was a
Thanks,
master
buddy.
stroke.
Thanks. Once in a while, I can still bring it. Once in a while.
Hey, you help bring us lots of views too. Believe it or not, some of your clips that we clip of you are some of our most viewed clips.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
And it used to be the opposite. It's for a minute, and I'm like, I'm like, I don't understand this. I said he's the greatest because he never says what
Our
everybody
top
wants
clip
to
on
hear.
YouTube, Bob, is your segment. You came on and talked about Dane Fife being fired. That's our top viewed segment.
I didn't even know that.
I'll be damned.
It has it might even have 10,000 views at this point, but it was close to 10,000.
Wow, and I didn't even know what I was talking about.
I think it's a great thing. I think it's great. Well, obviously we love having you, but I hope that I loved and hope that it helps you as well. I mean, I hope that it
I'm
broadens yours.
I'm happy to do it, and the price is right. I get my Psalms cards every once in a while. Sure, yeah.
Yeah, and these guys.
The great thing, Jim, is that where I play golf, Big Lug by the Prairie is owned by
30 seconds.
So I can go play golf and drink all afternoon, and it doesn't cost me a cent. It's a beautiful thing.
Here we go.
All right.
Ball and plenty more. Simply go to thehoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Wednesday. I have to think every time I go to say it. But I know that Bob Kravitz is here, and I know Dylan Sinn from Journal Gazette is here. Bob, of course, from the Athletic, and we were just talking off air. He wasn't able to be with us last week, but he left a golden nugget for us instead. He left a present under the tree, so to speak, with that incredible piece that you put out titled "Indiana Post Bobby Knight: After Years of Struggle, the Hoosiers Have Their Man," and it was a perfectly strung, as you called, an oral history. But after his intro, you spoke to Jared Jeffries, Brian Evans, Joe Hillman, Dean Garrett, and first of all, I know Brian Evans just tells it like it is. I know Joe Hillman tells it like it is. Joe Hillman, Dean Garrett, he's as honest as well, and not he's out in Vegas and not from here, and Jared Jeffries is a Bloomington guy, and so he's going to tell it like it is. So you certainly picked, and Joe Hillman, for somebody who was not born in Indiana, I don't know if you could find more of an Indiana guy than Joe Hillman. lives, eats, and breathes, sleeps Indiana, IU basketball, but the history. He knows the damn history, and that amazes me when someone he came in from California, but yet he knows the history of IU basketball, and he takes it seriously to this day. And I love that. And I love that.
We talked for well over an hour. I talked with Joe for well over an hour, and I spoke with Brian Evans for well over an hour. And you can hear the passion in their voice, and it's important to them. It's whether you're from Indiana or not. If you've had any relationship with the basketball program at the level that those guys have had, you're going to have a certain passion, and those guys certainly have it. And look, they were really critical of Archie Miller. I love that one quote from Brian Evans saying he was like a POW. Like we went to Dayton, stuck him in the trunk of a car, and brought him to Bloomington, kicking and screaming. That was Archie, and it just never worked out. I mean, I don't blame Dolson for making the move that he made, because that thing was going nowhere fast.
Oh no, he had to make that. I mean, you could feel it. That was just something you could feel. It was palpable, and it was also visual. You could just see it. It's like you've got to be lost not to see this. And
let me tell you a little background of that story. So a couple of weeks, and you remember, Jim, because I called you to get some phone numbers. A couple of weeks before the Big Ten tournament, I was, remember they lost 5-6 in a row down the stretch. And so I was going to come out during the Big Ten tournament with a what the hell is wrong with IU basketball story? What in the name of Uwe Blop has happened here? And then they went and they beat, Michigan. They beat Illinois. They damn near beat Iowa. They got to the NCAA. They beat Wyoming in the first 4. And I was like, well, what the hell is wrong with Indiana story probably wouldn't work real well right now. I was looking at those quotes. I was like, God, this is really good stuff. I want to use it somehow. So I had to think of a way to present it so that it was like, okay, things are looking up. Things are going well for Mike Woodson. But why haven't they the last 22 years? Is he the guy to move them forward, et cetera, et cetera? But I just changed the focus of the story and was able to use all those quotes. And I thought it came out well. It really blew up on the Athletic site.
It was great. And now the fact that I know that was actually a different story and you turned it into something other that was equally great. That is the mark of a great journalist, man, and a great writer, people. You can't just turn gold out of nothing all the time, and he does it. But not only, you also talk to Mike Davis, and
he was great.
He's another guy that I have to say that I love, because he has always been so gracious. He's come on the show a few times. He's honest. You never get coaches who are freaking honest. Coaches are just inherently not honest as far as how they present things, especially if it makes them look bad. And he's just honest. And I love that.
The thing that, and he said this to me before, but he did the whole thing backwards. He should have started at Detroit and then gone to UAB and wherever else.
Georgia, there's Texas Southern or whatever.
Texas Southern, and then gone to Indiana. He did it all back asswards, right? So my favorite Mike Davis story, though, and it wasn't in my story, but my favorite story personally is after he was given the full-time job. I forget the year. It was probably after, I guess the second year. He went up to me and our friend, the late Terry Hutchins, and said, "You guys have got to do me a favor. If I ever, I don't know if I can use the word on the air, but if I ever start acting like a bleep, I want you guys to tell me." And we did. Terry, to his great credit, would tell Mike, you're turning into, you're making this mistake or that mistake, not on the basketball floor, but the way he dealt with people. And I mean, for the most part, he was great. I loved Mike. He was thrown into an impossible position. I was really glad to hear Joe Hillman.
Yes.
Look, he took the job. What in the hell is he supposed to do?
Exactly.
You get offered the Indiana basketball job, whether you're ready or not, you take it, man.
You're damn right.
You bet on yourself. And by God, in the second year, he had him in the NCAA final game.
Yeah, and I know people like to say that. Well, that was with Knight's players. Well, Knight didn't do the recruiting really then, first of all. But so I'm like, all right. But even if that is the case, Bob Knight had his own players for the almost a decade, an entire decade prior to that, and he couldn't get out of the freaking second round of the tournament. He won. Mike Davis won more NCAA tournament games in his run to the final championship game than I think Bob Knight won in his previous 7 seasons in totality. So,
and he changed things up. I was talking with Jerry Jeffries. I don't think it made the story.
And I saw it. I didn't know this.
But he took the shackles off. I mean, you look at guys like Hornsby, Fife, especially Tommy Coverdale. Coverdale was a lost puppy under Knight. And look, Knight was a hard person to play for. You had to have a certain type of personality and approach. And, Mike Davis came in. He changed a lot of what they do offensively. It was a lot more set plays, a lot less motion offense, which I know drives Indiana fans crazy, that there are, in fact, other ways to play the game and more modern ways to play the game. And, once those guys had the shackles taken off, they played exceptional basketball, and they got a little lucky. They played some lower seeds until they ran into Duke. I mean, they
of which they were down 17 points to the number 1 and defending national champion with Carlos Boozer and
oh my gosh,
who was the other
Williams?
Jay Williams.
Jay Williams, but they also had the other big man, Carlos Boozer, and there was another one.
I know who you're talking about, but I'm having a brain. I'm only on my first cup of coffee, so
me too, Mike. But the greatest picture I've told AJ Moye anytime he's on, if that's me, my home is wallpapered in that poster picture.
That poster, yeah.
I mean, I'm wallpapering everything, baby. That is just the greatest. Mr. What is he, 6'4" or is he 6'6"? But it doesn't matter. Boozer's 6'8", and he's just got him just
right
palmed. Oh, it's just beautiful. I was at that game. That was nuts.
Can you imagine if Jay Williams had hit those free throws? Dane Fife would not be allowed back in the state of Indiana. That would have been a Chris Webber moment.
Oh yeah, Mike Davis dropped to his knees and buried his face and his hands on his band. It was
exactly.
But I remember
it was great to talk to Mike again. He's always really good with his time, and he's an honest guy, and he's self-aware, which you don't always find in sports. He knew that he was not ready for the job, but if somebody is going to give you the job, you might as well take it and run with it, and he did a hell of a job.
Then Dylan, then they move on to Kelvin Sampson, and I love everyone was so honest about this. Of course, I didn't expect anything different from Brian or Joe. Joe says that Kelvin was just a really bad hire. Evans just says stunned, absolutely stunned. Dean Garrett says, I think Sampson thought he was bigger than the program. And yeah, that was one of the dumbest hires by Indiana, and they made some really dumbass hires even since then. And that was just a totally dumbass hire that was forced on the athletic department. And I don't get that. I've always
thought that was an Dr. Adam Herbert hire. And the men and women in the board of trustees. Rick Greenspan, I don't think that was a Rick Greenspan hire, but he ended up holding the bag on it. And my whole point is, if they're making basketball hires and you're out of the loop, you need to quit that job. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's your purview as an AD to hire, the basketball coach at Indiana, which is merely the most important hire you're going to make ever. And it was taken out of Greenspan's hands. Now, don't misunderstand me. I did not like Rick Greenspan at all, but I can't fully put the responsibility for the Sampson hire on him.
Well, I love the story that Brian Evans told about Sampson, and I'm still shaking my head. It actually reminds me of Moneyball when he's going to hire the kid away from Cleveland, the analytics guy, and he says,
"Oh yeah,
when I left your office, you looked me up on Google. Would you have drafted me first, or?" And he said, "Yeah." And then he said, "No, would you have drafted me?" "No, I'd have drafted you in the 9th round and no signing bonus and this, that, and the other thing." And Brian Evans says when it came to his introductory press conference, Sampson came up to him and says, Lefty, I got a story to tell you. And they said the Magic called him in '96 about drafting him or Oklahoma's Ryan Miner. And of course, he had come from Oklahoma. And he said, "I told him I'd take Ryan Miner every day of the week, twice on Sunday." He said he shook my hand and he's thinking, what a dumb story. Why would you tell me that?
Right.
That just makes you think, yeah, what are you thinking, dude? You're here to endear yourself, and you're talking to one of the greatest players ever, and you tell him a stupid-ass story like that?
It's something that people don't know, and I don't know if this has ever been reported, but if Sampson had held on, if he hadn't cheated and done all the things that he did,
great coach,
there would be the candy stripes would be gone because he thought they looked stupid, and names would be on the back of jerseys. But he wanted to wait until he won enough before he could make those kinds of changes to Indiana University and the program. And he won, but at what price? You had a bunch of guys who couldn't find the classroom with Google Maps. There was a lot of drug use going on. You remember Jeff Rabjohns a couple years ago talked with Eric Gordon, and Eric Gordon talked about there being a drug issue with the team. And so I love these notes that people send you. Mr. Kravitz looks like he's feeling good today. Do I always look like I look like crap?
No, I'm telling you, I think it's the background. I think it's the background. It's just
the background. Does it make me look brighter?
It's brighter. It's just I thought you were in Florida on vacation.
No, I was in Jersey last week at the Jersey Shore for vacation. That's why I couldn't come on.
Did you see Paulie Walnuts?
I did not see Paulie. No, Paulie Walnuts died just before we got there. But I hooked up with Snooki. It's a thing you do at the Jersey Shore.
You're cutting in on Dylan's territory, man.
You can have her, buddy.
God.
You can have her.
Dylan, I know you read this piece too. What were some of your favorite takes?
Well, I mean, I guess the question I had for you, Bob, is obviously these guys enjoy talking about this stuff. I guess the question I had for you is what does that say to you about guys who want to talk about this stuff and having alumni who want to talk about the program a decade or more after they were part of it, because they still care about the future trajectory of how it's going?
Yeah, I mean, look, these guys were very, very enthusiastic about talking, and I could have reached out to several more people, but it was already a 5,000 word piece. It was getting a little long there, and you know how editors get. But even at The Athletic, where we write these monster stories, but yeah, I mean, I just think these guys have been suffering and struggling with this program for the last 20 some odd years. I think I wrote that, I don't know what the hell I was thinking. I wrote that IU hadn't been in the NCAA final in 22 years. My math is really bad. It was 20 years. But regardless.
Who's counting?
Yeah. Well, me and math, I'm a journalism major. So.
Well, but this begs, your piece actually begs another question. They went through hiring Mike Davis, which was cool. There was really not, I think that was an emergency situation. They were trying to hold on to the team. So I understand it. But then when all the next hires there were so many questions, and yet why don't they consult a select group of former elite players, like, from a couple different eras, like you did, to get to these comments? Because if I'm doing some hiring and I'm getting these comments back, I'm not hiring.
Well, let me tell you something. If I'm talking to Brian Evans and he tells me that John Calipari is interested, damn right I'm going after him. At one point, I told Greenspan that I thought that Tom Izzo might be interested, and he completely ignored it. He never followed up.
Did they even talk to Calipari?
No, I don't think so. I
don't
know for sure. It's many years.
Did he have the Memphis stain on him already?
I don't think so. He had the Massachusetts stain, but that really wasn't on him. That was an agent and Marcus Camby. You know what? It's a funny thing. I just thinking in terms of stories. And Dylan, I don't know if you were there or if you were in diapers then, but that when Sampson got hired, they had a big press conference at Assembly Hall, and they filled the place with people excited about Kelvin. And I had already ripped the crap out of Kelvin at least 4 times before he ever said a word. And I asked the first question at the press conference, and it was about his graduation rate, which was minimal, and the NCAA violations he committed while at Oklahoma. And the fans booed the hell out of me. But to Sampson's credit, he knew it was coming. He had to know it was coming. And he had a pretty good BS answer for what happened. Then he went and did it all over again. So great coach for basketball, not such a great life coach in my view.
Yeah. And that's I guess the question on that, I guess it demonstrates the fans that they care about the stuff like graduation rates and NCAA following the rules and things like that, but they'd like to win some games. Like that's right. When the rubber meets the road, that's what they care about, and that's every fan base, I think.
Well, look, I mean, how many coaches get financial incentives for having a high graduation rate? I mean, they're there to win, and I think there are still people who feel like, and some people at my shop still feel like, well, all he did was call recruits. Well, those were the rules back then. We can argue that the rules were stupid. We can argue that the rules have changed and that what he did back then would not be improper or illegal now. Improper, I should say, or illegal based on NCAA rules. But he did break the damn rules. I mean, it's supposed to be a semi-level playing field, and he tried to. And I talked to him privately about it once or twice, and I was just not convinced that he got it, that he saw that he did some bad things and that he needed to be held to account for them.
Yeah, that's usually the case for them. Another thing, how this whole thing lays out, who started the anti-Bob Knight of not bringing in a Bob Knight person? That was a real thing that they were like, nope, no Bob Knight hires, no Mike Woodson's, no one like that. Did that start immediately after Mike Woodson, I assume? I mean, Mike Davis.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think they went out of their way to bring in, guys who did not have the Bob Knight seal of approval.
Because I'm not saying Dockett should have gotten the job, but there was, he was in there, and they could, had they wanted to do that, they could have done that with him.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been much of a disaster, would it?
I'm not. Ask the guys at the Star. I wouldn't know. Yeah.
We having any fun there? Good.
Buddy, I am staying out of it. We talked about it yesterday. Man, I am staying out of this one. That's both of those people got bigger cannons than I got, and I am staying away from it.
I thought at some point about doing, a longer piece on Dan, and then I just said the hell with him. I don't want to give him any oxygen.
He certainly will. enjoy it.
Yes, you will.
And then you would definitely be the next target on that list.
Oh yeah. Well, so I liked Greg's column immensely. I thought it was really, really good and very accurate. And but I didn't feel, especially it's different working for the Indianapolis Star than it is the Athletic. The Athletic is more big picture, national type stuff. So it's one I wish I had written, but it just didn't seem appropriate at the time. And again, like I say, I don't want to give that guy any more oxygen than he's already getting.
But not just coaches. What I don't get with Indiana is the hiring, the mistakes. I'm like, are you effing kidding me? Sometimes I'm like, how can you do this time and time again? But one problem for me, which, and I've said this many times, and I don't mean it personally to him, but Fred Glass was the athletic director for 11 years. Mm-hmm. He had this much experience as an athletic director previously to taking over the biggest job in one of the biggest conferences. And I'm like, why? What experience is there? There's none whatsoever. Well, you would think it'd be great at writing contracts. Indiana seemed to have screwed themselves by a lot of the contracts that got written because it cost them a lot of money.
Yeah. Look, I really like Fred Glass. It's hard.
He's a super nice guy,
super dude. I think he made the right call with the football program. I think getting rid of Kevin Wilson was something they had to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that Tom Allen has, despite last year's backpedaling, I think he has a chance. If anybody has a chance to get Indiana back on, playing decent football, I still think it's Tom Allen. I think last year was a bit of an anomaly. I hope so. But on basketball, I knew he was focused in on Archie Miller from the very beginning. And look, when he was hired, I thought, hey, this is the best, up and coming guy they can go after. So I was as surprised as anybody that they were as bad as they were. I remember Indiana State coming in and beating the hell out of Indiana. Didn't Fort Wayne beat them too?
Yep. Indiana State and PFW beat them in the first month of Archie's tenure by 20 points apiece at Assembly Hall.
Right. They beat them like a high school team.
Yeah. It was shocking how bad that was.
All I remember is how horrible. I remember out on the front court, a guard for Fort Wayne was out there, and his defender was basically running circles 5 feet away from him, and they're just knocking down threes. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm like, Archie, you could have just said play rec league, and it would have been better than that.
Archie's biggest thing to me is that he just never seemed committed. He never seemed like he was part of the Indiana family. I remember that opening press conference. The dude just looked like he had seen a ghost. No smile, no acknowledgement of the crowd. I thought this guy is a cold fish or a dead fish or a cold dead fish.
Exactly. Dead fish walking.
Dead fish walking, yeah. And so
fish walking, baby.
I give Dolson credit for pulling the plug. Look, I am not a guy who believes you have to have an Indiana guy.
I think that's why Glass retired, because the next step was Archie had to go. And there's no way that Fred could have been the guy that packed him when he brought him.
Let me ask you guys this question, because I go back and forth on this. Should they have fired Tom Crean? He was 27-8, and then he had a bad season.
I think they should have fired him before that.
Before that,
personally,
like after what? After 2015, the year before they won the Big Ten title.
No, it's when they re-upped him, because they just dropped. They were just not the same. They were never the same.
Because they went to the Sweet 16 with Cody and Vic in 2013. 2014, they missed the tournament. 2015 they made it and lost. And they started well, finished like 20-14, and lost in the first round. So at what point in there do you fire him at that point? I guess is the question.
I can't remember the timeline, but it's not just the winning and losses. It was everything that was going on with him.
Because that was the narrative, is that he'd lost control of the program because there were so many players getting in trouble off the court for a while there.
Well, it wasn't just that; is the players didn't even know when they were going to practice every day. After every game, you did not know when the press conference was going to start, but the players literally did not know when they were going to practice from day to day. There was no schedule, and that's just nothing short of psychotic. You can't have people operate that way.
I wasn't aware of that. I know. Look, Tom is high maintenance, and I say that as somebody who likes him quite a lot. Tom reads everything. He's very sensitive. Boy. He can be a little thin-skinned, and that's fine. I think what we write, we should be held accountable. I have no problem with that. But I think that becomes a tough process for a Fred Glass to handle when you've got a guy who's kind of manic in the way he does things. And so I think that was part of it. But frankly, I mean, they were 27-8 and reached the Sweet 16 1 year before they fired him. He had 3 years left on his contract. And don't tell me, well, he went to Georgia and sucked. Who's been good in Georgia? Hugh Durham?
Yep, that was it.
You surprised they came up with that name?
And he did recruit a guy who ended up going number 1 overall to play for him at Georgia, which is pretty impressive.
Right. So I don't know. I probably wouldn't have, but that's neither here nor there. I think they're in a much better place with Woody. You got Race and Trace coming back. You got a number 5 recruiting class coming in, and I think they're in pretty good shape. They ought to compete for a Big Ten title next year.
I agree with you, brother. How do you follow this piece of gold, man?
Well, I wrote a piece today on whether this isn't gold. It's not even igneous rock, really. But I wrote a piece today. Zach Kiefer has that remarkable 6-part narrative podcast on Andrew Luck. So I just kind of piggybacking off that, I started thinking, does he belong in the Ring of Honor?
Nope.
And I said no.
Absolutely not. I said absolutely not. Positively not. Well, make sure you check that out because and go back and read the story that we've been talking about all morning if you haven't yet at the Athletic. The great Bob Kravitz. Can't thank you enough, brother. Look forward to it.
See you down.
Good again next week. Hey, we got to take a quick break. Coming up next, Neddenriep from the Indy Star. We'll get caught up on that. Some high school action at Feast Market and Cellar. Don't forget to stop by there. Located next door to Southern Stone Restaurant on Patterson and Rogers, offering an extensive wine selection with the sommelier on staff to help you make the correct pairing. All part of the Wow Club. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
The sun is out. Sorry, Kyle. That was sweet. That was a long one there. That one could have gone on all day.
I just got done texting him saying that when he gets back from his 2 weeks off, we're gonna move that around because the whole back-to-back him and Bob is become an issue.
Yeah, because
because then it shortens him, and we've taken Bob an extra 10 minutes, and it's.
But we've got an open segment, right?
Yeah, but Kyle needs to be out by 9:35, is what he said earlier.
Gotcha. That was perfect timing. What's new with you, brother?
Working on high school football preview. Had our second photo shoot last night, so.
Last week you didn't, wasn't it the Mr. Football candidates?
Yeah, I think that was last week.
Yeah,
pretty sure.
Can't keep it all straight, baby.
I always get the region mad at me.
Oh, yeah? Oh, because,
Even though Drake Bowen's the easy favorite, I would think, but the kid from Hobart was mad, or the dad was, whatever. I'm used to it. He probably should have been listed somewhere, but he wasn't.
See, here in Fort Wayne, we get people from this area mad at us. You have people from all over the state mad at you. That must be tough.
And at any point can go from the opposite.
Yeah. Which region of the state gets most angry with you, Kyle?
No, the region is an area of the state up in the northeast corner.
I'd say all of them do. It's everybody thinks they're.
Southern Indiana thinks they get crapped on.
Yeah, the region is probably the worst though for me.
Really?
Yeah, I think they're the softest of the bunch.
And they're probably the chirpiest though, up there in the northeast or northwest. First of all, up north, that's enough right there. Makes them chirpy.
And again, it's always it's always the vocal, minority or whatever, but not everybody's. I've had great relationships with a lot of people up there, but and the kid probably should have been listed, honestly, but yeah, so I don't know. It's always everybody always is like our area gets shafted all the time. It's like, really? That's not true, but
here we go.
Fees and pilots. See dealer for financing deals. Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by BB's Market in Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, on this Wednesday. Just finished up in a great segment with Bob Kravitz, and now joined by our great friend Kyle Neddenriep, who has been busy as the football season is getting close. High school football getting closer. You've got Mr. Football candidates have been announced, but that's a long way off and just throwing out. So that's a group that will change. There will be some that probably drop out and some that will come in over the course of the season. But you get to put it all out there and take all the crap.
That's part of it. If you're going to put your name on it and put the names out there, it's part of the deal. But I think going into this year, Drake Bowen to me is probably the guy who has the most impressive credentials, going into the season. And I did hear from somebody said, well, you can't have any front runners. The season hasn't started yet. It's like, well, what's the fun of that? So. If you can't even list anybody. So I think that's not a fair way to look at it either. But I think Drake Bowen, he was Gatorade Player of the Year last year. He won a state championship, best player on, a really good team. They're not a 6A team, so I won't say they're the best team in the state, but he's definitely proven himself. I think he's the top overall prospect in the state as far as if you look at recruiting rankings. And I know that's not, part of the discussion necessarily, but I think it's just another feather in his cap. So, to me, he looks like the front runner going in pretty clearly. But a lot of good candidates out there. It's kind of interesting. We don't have that. Like last year with Brady Allen and in other years, we don't have that quarterback that's like, oh man, this is kind of the guy to beat necessarily. So, that's a little bit different this year. So, it's like you said, Jim, I mean, it'll play itself out. Guys will come in and out based on how they do early in the season. But yeah, I think Bowen's probably the place the guy to start with.
I also a little bit. This has been a little bit, but the North-South All-Star game happened a while back. I only mention that because it's the Shrine. It changed names for a while. Now back to the Murat Shrine North-South All-Star game. I mention that only because way back when I was in college, I was the sports information director for the South team, which that was awesome and fun. It actually helped propel my my career, but it's great to see that back. Not that it ever stopped having All-Star game, but the Shrine, it should always be the Shrine game. I just always loved that. We'd have to go. Herb Smith was he worked at IU, but he headed that up, and we'd always go to the Shriners Club like once or twice a week. He had meetings, and I'm a kid in college, and he's ordering these Beefeater. He's passed away now, but he had Beefeater martinis, and he particularly loved for you to drive so he could enjoy his Beefeater martini as we cruise in that big Lincoln going to whatever next meeting we were going to. But fun days, just fun times. But glad to see that. But yeah, big season coming up. You've got a lot of guys who are trying to make names for themselves. As you mentioned, the Mr. Football race obviously it's not Mr. Basketball. It will never be Mr. Basketball in Indiana, but it's become a lot more of a prestigious award as the years go by.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's, I know, the interest level in it's really high, and there's always the position awards are something a little bit different too, that the IFCA does that honors, kids who probably aren't going to have it. A lot of times, the offensive line, they just don't have, even the year, Blake Fisher, who went on to Notre Dame, he played at Avon. He's a great offensive lineman, sensational, but he doesn't have any numbers, so you can't really compare. So I think that's a cool thing they do, to have position awards too, kicker and things like that. So it's a unique award. It's different than Mr. Basketball, like you said, but it's I think every bit is level of interest for sure. I think in some years maybe even more so. The year Jack Kaiser won over David Bell, they changed the voting process because people. I think it was a good change. Not to say Jack Kaiser shouldn't have won it, but now they have more coaches vote. They don't have the panel like they used to. It's a huge basically anybody who has a IFCA membership who's part of the coaching staff can vote now. So I think the more votes, the better, which I think Mr. Basketball actually has they had, at least anyway in the past, a better process because you have, coaches
better
can
mixed
vote and media can vote. So you have just a bigger number, it's a wider swath. It's a better cross section, I think. But now, I think it'll be better moving forward.
Dylan thinks that it should be Mr. Football should be one of those great offensive linemen that comes out of Fort Wayne.
Look, we have 3 of them from Fort Wayne on IU's roster right now. All I'm saying is that any one of them could have been Mr. Football.
That's who they get. Hey, that's where IU gets their if it's an in-state offensive lineman, the chances are better than not that they came from Fort Wayne.
That's we're providing the protection for whoever IU's quarterback ends up being.
Well, eventually. I don't think I'd brag about that right now because that is not exactly been the case. But and Kyle, that's been to me. You want to talk about IU football? Man, you just see so many of the great, and we've talked about this before when Clemson and Ohio State played for the national championship. Or played in a couple of years ago when you had two Indy guys going against each other. But Indiana just cannot land a top lineman recruit from the state. If they're a top recruit, they're going elsewhere. If it's whether it's Ohio State or Clemson or Michigan, and man, that is killing Indiana, in my opinion. If they could just recruit the top recruits from this state, it would unbelievably improve the program because it all starts up front. We saw that last year, how badly they were and how badly that line was, and it just went.
Well, yeah, and I know we talked a lot on this show about Caden Curry, and as his recruitment was progressing, and Indiana was really a factor. I mean, I know it wasn't just a show. I mean, he really did like Indiana. He liked Tom Allen, but I always say, like, once Ohio State offers a central Indiana kid, and probably Fort Wayne and anywhere else in the state, it gets really hard to beat out Ohio State. That's the one. I think anybody else, in the Big Ten, you can battle up against, and but Ohio State and probably Michigan, those are the two, that it gets pretty hard, especially Ohio State. So, I knew once Ohio State really got off, after, Caden Curry, you go back to DeJuan Jones too. You can go back down the list through time, but once Ohio State gets serious, it's kind of lights out at that point, and that's kind of what happened with Caden Curry.
Well, that was why it was. That's why at the time Sampson James' commitment seemed so important for IU, was because it showed that, I mean, regardless of how good Sampson James ended up being, it showed that they could get someone that Ohio State wanted and get them and bring them to IU, and that's why it seemed important at the time. It just hasn't kind of played out that way.
And I thought, when Tommy Stevens committed from Decatur Central, this has been a few years ago, but he's quarterback, and I was like, man, this is the guy, I really thought could get things going there. And they've had pretty good quarterbacks in the last several years, but then, he ended up decommitting, going to Penn State. And I really thought I'm bad. I think I've told you before, like I've kind of given up trying to predict quarterbacks at the next level. It's just hard to know how they'll fit into a system. And there can only be one pretty much playing, but man, I thought he was going to be good for IU and ended up having to, ended up decommitting and go elsewhere. But, it's getting in-state recruits is important. Purdue has actually done a good job in this current class of getting some frontline, like Jerron Tibbs. They beat out Iowa for him. I think he's going to be a really good receiver at Purdue. And, there's others too that I think Purdue and Iowa really have kind of gone head-to-head on a lot of guys here lately, especially in our immediate area.
I know you got to go, man. Appreciate it. You're off the next couple of weeks. Hope you enjoy it. I hope it's vacation and you get your time because brother, when you get back, it's going to be all at it.
Trying to get stuff done so I don't have to worry on vacation, but I'm sure I'm sure I'll be worried anyway. But I'll see you. Yeah.
I was going to say, don't think about the Tigers while you're doing it.
Oh, no worries there. I'm over that. After the All-Star break, it's all getting ready for football now.
Brother, we appreciate you so much. Enjoy it. We look forward to seeing you back in a few weeks, man.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Dylan.
Thanks, Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star. Make sure you give him a follow. Be a subscriber. Keep local papers alive. I am as well. We've got more coming up. We've got to take a break. We're going to talk to Caleb Knost in a little while about what's going on down at the Peach Jam, and Dylan Sinn about a lot of different stuff. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat, brought to you by our great friends at BB's Market and Cellar, all part of the WOW Club. BB's is located in southern on South College in Bloomington, but you can also order from BB's online, as they have steaks and pork chops and sausages beyond your wildest imagination. Go check them out. bbsmarket.com. Visit bbsmarket.com. That was my bad. Let me say it again. Visit bbsmarket.com. Back with Dylan Sinn right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda. You can send the link to Caleb in his personal email.
That's what I'm doing right now. Quick thing, or a couple quick things. One, that's the second day in a row you've said BB's Market and Cellar. That's Feast Market and Cellar. BB's Market and Cellar.
Yeah, I understand that. Just tell me that I said it. I understand they're separate.
Trying to think.
Too much stuff to say, man. I get my words crossed. Visit BB's Market.
Oh, and the other thing is this next segment needs to be short as well, because we'll have Caleb coming on 9:50.
Well, this is an open segment, so that's perfect.
Yeah, and I've got 2 Jordan Geronimo clips if you want them.
We'll save those. We'll save those for 10:10. Me and Dylan can just talk about. We'll run those, and me and Dylan will just talk about that.
That's fine.
That'll be perfect. And we'll talk about whatever Dylan's got going. Actually, we can talk about that in this segment right here.
Sounds good.
Besides the 10 caps. Let's see. Man, how long does it take you to get to Bloomington from there?
A little less than 3 hours. Actually, closer to 3 with the construction that they had on 37, but now it's back to about 250.
They don't pay for you to stay overnight.
Generally, no. Basically what happens is I can ask if it's super late, and I can be like, "Hey, can I stay?" And generally they'll say yes. I don't like doing that though. I'd rather sleep in my own bed, so I usually drive home and then get home around 3 a.m. and then sleep until 10, and then roll the next day.
See, I used to do that, but unfortunately, I also used to be on the air at 6 a.m. when the show was down when I started the show down in Jeffersonville. And I was doing that too, though, but driving back home, and it was only an hour and a half, but I had to be up to do a 6 a.m. show.
Yeah, there you go. So
there were times I would go on the road and do games and then do the show the next morning, but I would get like 2 hours sleep, 3 hours sleep. I'm like,
oh,
dude, I can't do this anymore. I was like, it was killing me. I mean, this is hard enough as it is.
Right.
I think about back to then. I'm like, oh my God. But I wasn't doing nearly as much as I am now. I'm doing a lot more with.
Hey, so Jim, send me a text with Caleb's personal email because I only have the Hoosier email. I sent it to that one anyway, but if he wants a different email, you can send it over to me.
Okay, I'm gonna get back.
Can y'all hear my fan in the background?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
A little bit.
I figured
it's just
you could,
hey, it's just calebknost@gmail.com.
Okay. Sounds good. I'll send that
CALEBKNOST.
Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday with Dylan Sinn of the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. This segment, of course, brought to you by our good friends from Remax Realty, Cheryl Sizemore. If you're in a market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between you getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Dylan Sinn with me, as he has been this morning from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette, as he always is. Man, we're getting ready for the season to open. I know you're wrapping up your coverage of the Tin Caps, the Padres, one of the Padres minor league teams, and of course, high school football will be popping off up in Fort Wayne, which a big area for high school football in the state. You know, where is Fort Wayne? Is it the third largest?
I think it's second largest city in Indiana.
Is it second?
Yeah, I believe so.
I didn't know if it was Fort Wayne or Evansville but I should have assumed Fort Wayne because Fort Wayne used to have a damn NBA basketball team. So
yes, we did. The Fort Wayne Pistons back in the day, the Zollners.
The precursor to the Detroit Pistons, right?
Yes, exactly. And they played here for many years. Early in that was one of the original NBA teams. So it's that we have a long history of pro sports here in Fort Wayne. Right now we have 3 minor league teams. We have the Tin Caps. We have the Fort Wayne Comets, which is essentially a AA hockey team. We have the Mad Ants, who are the Pacers G League affiliate, and then we also have a soccer team that is semi-pro right now and is going to move up to pro at some point here in the next couple of years. It sounds like.
Soccer has just been growing and growing. It was the team that's since FC Cincinnati. They started out a few years. They were in. I remember the name of the league, but it's the name. It's the league that Indy 11 and the Louisville teams are in. And I know that both of those teams, and especially down in Louisville, they've won championships. But it's extraordinarily popular down there. They built a new stadium right off the interstate, so that has gotten extraordinarily popular. But great mix of sports for everybody in Fort Wayne. Man, you've got it all.
And they turn out too. I mean, when the Comets won the championship in 2021, the summer of 2021, there were 10,000 fans for one of the games in the championship series. So they turn out.
Well, everybody loves to come out to hockey. They get to see people get in fights and cheer their team on, and hopefully they win the fights and all that stuff. I mean, yeah, I remember going to minor league hockey when I first started in television in Louisville, and yeah, they loved it. It was, and then it just went away, and I couldn't believe it because it seemed like that they were succeeding, but you can only have so much, and you've got to have the city to support it. But what's been new for you? I know that we've got. We'll talk about the IU stuff in a little bit, but what do you been working on? What do you got coming out?
Well, that's kind of like Kyle. We have media day for high school football here coming up on Friday, so I'll talk to a whole bunch of people that day about high school football in the area coming up. I am writing a story about the Northeast 8 Conference this year, and that's kind of my contribution to our preview section, which the Journal-Gazette has really comprehensive previews Northeast Indiana football, which will run middle of August, the week of the 15th, so right before the season starts. So we'll have that. I do have several IU stories coming up here over the next several days. I talked to Blackhawk Christian coach Matt Roth, who played at IU. You might remember him from the early 2010s. He was a teammate of Jordan Hulls, so I talked to him about Jordan and coming back to IU and what that means for high school coaches in this area and around the state. So I'll have that story coming out tomorrow, which I'm pretty excited about as well.
Looking forward to that. And then, of course, it's not long before we've got Big Ten Media Days next Tuesday and Wednesdays
as well.
So as a matter of fact, hopefully you'll be able to be with us at least some of the part live next week, because we will be at Lucas Oil Stadium for both days of that, which is Tuesday and Wednesday. Indiana's day is Tuesday. We'll hopefully have Tom Allen on with us, as we generally do, and at least one of the players. Indiana listed out the guys that are going up there: AJ Barner,
Cam Jones.
Jones and Tywan Mullen.
Yeah. AJ Barner going is pretty interesting, I thought, because he's
a junior.
Yeah, he's a junior, and he wasn't much. He didn't contribute a ton last year, but they're really, really excited about him.
Well, that tells me something, that he must be doing something to get invited to this. That tells me they have plans for him.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like you invite your best players to this thing every year, but it's generally a guy who's going to contribute significantly, is going to be a leader on the team. And so having him out there seems like a fairly significant development for him, especially as he tries to replace Peyton Hendershot, who was obviously one of the best tight ends in the Big Ten last year.
And let's see, what else are you personally working on? Because we want to make sure that we get that covered. And what for the IU portion, there's a lot of IU fans up in Fort Wayne. There are some split allegiances, though. It's one of those towns that it's far enough away that it has some split allegiance. What's the percentage IU Purdue there?
As far as I can tell, it's actually pretty even. We get a lot of comments at the Journal-Gazette about giving Purdue short shrift. So we make sure to really try to be balanced in how much we cover both of them, because I think it's pretty even in our coverage area. That people care about IU and Purdue. So obviously Purdue has kind of won a lot of recruiting battles against IU here over the years, because this is kind of Purdue recruiting territory. It's been a while since we had someone from from Fort Wayne play basketball at IU. So they're I'm sure hoping that will change here if IU gets it going again, and we have some really talented players from Fort Wayne. But we're going to have two from Purdue coming here in the fall. So we have the last 2 years we've had a player from Fort Wayne go to Purdue. So now we're wondering whether that's going to continue or whether IU's going to get down in the game.
We got to take a break. Coming up next, Caleb Knost is going to join us. We're going to talk about what's happening down in South Augusta or North Augusta at the Peach Jam, as lots of IU targets are in action and will be through the weekend. But play has already started. You can follow that on thehoosier.com, complete live updates. But Caleb Knost contributor to the Hoosier.com, is going to be with us next, and we'll talk about that and much more. Brought to you by our good friends from Barbara Prop Realty Services in Southern Indiana. If you're down in the Louisville, Floyd, Clark, Harrison areas, they have served Southern Indiana and Louisville for over 3 decades and know exactly how to find the home you want for less. Reach out to Matt Lincoln, Matt@barbarapop.com. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio and Caleb Knost right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington.
Good morning.
How are you, sir?
Morning, Caleb.
Good. I don't think I met half of y'all, but
Hi, Caleb. I'm Dylan Sinn. I work for the Journal-Gazette in Fort Wayne.
yeah, I've seen you on here before. We just had never been face to face. But
Nice to meet you.
Caleb started. We met. No, I brought him on. He's a contributor to the Hoosier.com. He works most of the EYBL sites at Nike. So it was out in Kansas City last week, and then of course keeps up with everything going on. Which actually this week is probably easier for you. You can actually watch the action, right?
yeah, it's a lot easier not being out there. I mean, it's nice being out there, but
Right.
it's nice. It's also nice taking a break and seeing it from home, not having to travel. Man, it was killer getting back to Kansas City.
You have no idea who you sound exactly like.
Who?
Tony Stewart. Well, it's the same. It's the way. It's the words. It's the exact. Because if I listen to an interview of him, it's the way the words are said. It's so funny.
Yeah. I don't know. My dad is from Marion, but I grew up my whole life in Georgia. So,
Well,
He does sound like Tony Stewart. I can't not see that now that you said that.
I'm telling you. I have an ear for that stuff, man. I can recognize people by voice faster than a face like that. I can hear 3 words of a voice on something and go, that dude was in what's and much, and not even recognize their face. But I hope God.
Caleb, I'm John. Last week, I think when you came on, Joe was producing. He's our associate. He was filling in for me, but I'm normally here depending on
John, the producer.
Situations.
I don't know if y'all shouted him out yet, Jim, but we have one of the listeners, his son Zane Dowdy. He plays for Indy Heat, just committed to Valparaiso last week. So we want to make sure we give them a congratulations.
Oh, he's a listener to the show?
He chimed in last time I was on, so I know his dad had at least listened once. But yeah, his son just committed to Valpo, I think last week.
Yeah, make sure you bring it up. We love them all.
All right, here we go.
Deal sales event. Get 0.99% APR financing for well-qualified buyers on all 2017 through 2021 Honda certified pre-owned Accords, Civics, CRVs, HRVs, and Pilots. See dealer for financing deals. Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle with you, as always. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette, as he always is as well on the Wednesday. And we're joined by Caleb Knost, contributor to the Hoosier.com. And, man, the Peach Jam is underway, and the balls are flying and going in the hoop, and there's a lot of action going on down there, man.
Yeah, definitely so. A little bit different this year. They've got, dang near 40 teams down there, which has been an interesting expansion. They had talked about maybe going to 24 or something like that, but they've got a whole play-in tournament going on this time and everything like that. I don't really know the exact reason why, but I can give you a guess. And his name is Bronny James.
Yeah. Oh, we talked about him being down there earlier, and that would draw that. But today also marks the final live period of July in the summer. So that's another thing. Now the coaches can descend upon the Peach Jam. which is in North Augusta this week. Indiana prospects are in action down there. Also, you've got the Adidas 3SSB out in Seal Beach, California, and the Under Armour in Chicago, as well as the NY2LA in Milwaukee. But the live period starts at noon and runs through the end of Sunday. So the coaches are back out and running and scrambling. And I don't know if they'll be going to California or not. That's a long way to have to go. Depends if there's someone out there that they really need to see. But I think most of the guys are in North Augusta. But we'll see. We'll see if anybody does any traveling. Xavier Booker is in Milwaukee. Okay, somebody's going to California because Jamie Kaiser's out there. And he is someone I think that they really, really want. Deshawn Harris-Smith, one of the new names that you've seen, is in North Augusta. Let's see. Arrington Page is in North Augusta. TJ Powers in North Augusta. So that's just some of the names there. So I think that somebody will be going to California, Dylan, to check out Jamie Kaiser because he has become a high priority.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is that they have, so IU, just to reset the scene here a little bit, we know IU has 2 commitments in this class already, guards Ja'Kai Newton and Gabe Cupps. That's kind of the foundation of the class. Now you kind of go for guys who are going to fill it out. You get a forward, you get a big man, and you see what you can make this class into, especially after putting together a top 10 class in 2022.
Caleb, you've seen a lot of these guys play, especially and specifically the guys on the EYBL. Deshawn Harris-Smith from Fairfax. What have you seen? I haven't seen him, and he's kind of popped up here of late of a name of note. What have you seen of his play?
Yeah, he's really coming to his own. The last 2 sessions, IU started taking notice of him in, shortly after Louisville. I think they got to watch some of those games, even though they weren't there. Really watched him heavy in Kansas City. You look at a kid like Gabe Cupps, and everybody talks about him being a winner. I think, DHS is that same kind of guy. He does 7.5 rebounds a game as a combo guard. 4 assists, a steal and a half a game. Aside from his scoring, he's bringing, anywhere from 15 to 25 points a game as well. And it's, it shows. It's no surprise that they're 3-0 so far this week in North Augusta.
The guys they're going after, Caleb and Dylan, Deshawn Harris-Smith, which he'll be in on a visit in Bloomington next week. Jamie Kaiser from Virginia, another one that they are really prioritizing. Arrington Page. Just imagine if Indiana were to land Harris-Smith, Kaiser, and Page to go with what they already have coming in, to go with what they already have, they would have that season. And then that following season, I think Indiana will end up landing Jalen Harrelson as well as Trent Sisley, but that's just prognosticating. But I'm just trying to imagine the amount of talent that is going to be on that roster. Indiana's fans will be, I think they're going to be just giddy because they've spent these last several years with just mismatched pieces of talent. If there's elite talent, there wasn't a lot of it. There's going to be a lot of it. And that hasn't happened in 30 years when you have a lot of elite talent. Indiana has won with less than elite talent, but having that elite talent across the board, Quinn Buckner, Scott May, when you start thinking of those type of teams, that was elite talent across the board, Dylan, and they have a good chance of getting back to that.
Yeah, that's the thing is they've done a great job of recruiting here over the first 18 months of Mike Woodson's tenure. They include, especially on Tamar Bates and Malik Renault, where they were kind of in the right place at the right time and took advantage of an opportunity. Those are high level guys to bring in, and now you have to make sure that you follow it up and you lay a base of recruiting that you can kind of roll over year after year after year. Obviously, every recruit is different. You have to build a relationship with every recruit. But if you have enough success early in a tenure and you win enough, you kind of build a foundation where you can kind of say, okay, we've won with these guys, we've done this, we've done that, and you can kind of start to say to a recruit, okay, what more do you need to see? And that's a lot of recruits are going to start to think, well, I've seen all I need to see already, and you go from there. So they're building the foundation right now, and that's why this 23 class is so important.
Caleb?
Yeah, unfortunately, actually, Arrington Page isn't playing this week in North Augusta. I'm not really sure why he's not down there. They're missing Isaiah Collier and Kanan Carlisle, two other 5-star guards. But, the way it's shaping up, they're in really good shape with a lot of high-end talent. TJ Power, a guy, like I said, that's probably going to end up being in that borderline 4 or 5-star range when it's all said and done. A James Brown, who they started getting in with early for class of 24, they're moving in the direction of a big guy. It seems kind of the trend, though. They're either putting a lot of eggs in the Logan Duncombe basket and the Arrington Page basket, or they're looking to probably fill out their bigs through the portal because they're going after a lot of guards and a lot of wings, which doesn't seem like a problem because they're high-end guys.
I probably shouldn't say this, but I do not expect Logan Duncombe to be at Indiana next year. And that's nothing that I've learned. I am just, I don't, because of what I just said specifically, I think Indiana is going to have so much elite talent that there will not be room for less than that, or someone who has the potential to be that. And I think that. And Mike Whitson didn't recruit Logan Duncombe. He honored his scholarship, gave him the opportunity to, hey, man, if you can do whatever you can do. And I don't think that, and this is just, again, I guess on what I've seen and all this, I think that he will hit the portal, which will give Indiana another option. And again, I think now that we've added NIL and success, winning, you can't just have NIL. You got to win. But I think Indiana obviously showed last year they're getting turned around, and now you keep adding this elite talent. The winning is going to start coming more and more, which is going to one's going to feed the other. And that's how it has to be. It's how it should be at a school like Indiana. Indiana is a school that it should be like that all the time. It just hasn't been over mismanagement for so long. They seem to be back where they need to be in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I think it wouldn't be a shocking turn of events to me to see Logan Duncombe hit the portal and leave and maybe go somewhere back in Ohio, where he's from. It's certainly just on the track we're at now. It's trending towards maybe like a Malik Renault 5, Jordan Geronimo 4, Caleb Banks, Jamie Kaiser, somebody playing that wing spot. Looks like the future as of right now. For the immediate future. So that wouldn't shock me at all if Logan Duncombe decided to try to find greener pastures elsewhere.
And I'm not asking you to follow up that, Dylan, but because I don't want to put my predictions on other people, but
and sure, and just to go with what Caleb said there a little bit, that lineup that he talked about, which if it is the future, is I'm sure IU fans would be pretty excited about it, but that's the type of lineup that Mike Woodson wants. There's a ton of positional flexibility in there. There's a ton of athleticism. Guys can shoot the ball from outside all over that lineup. Malik Renault talked about he's working on his outside shot. If he's going to play the 5 in the future, that means you have 5 guys on the floor who can conceivably shoot the 3, which is what Mike Woodson wants. And so that it makes sense to me. And maybe Logan Duncombe comes out this year and has a fantastic season and turns into a very serviceable backup for Trace Jackson Davis, and we're having a different conversation next year. But right now, I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to it because I'm looking forward to seeing who's that next guy that commits. Who is the next guy that they get? They have, I think, 3 more openings basically for next year, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. So because you have Trace leaving, you have Race leaving, and you can whoever else decides to enter the portal, and Xavier Johnson leaving as well. Yeah. So
it could potentially be 4. Indiana's going to get. I mean, these guys are going to because Duke can't get everybody, Kansas can't get everybody, Kentucky can't get everybody. There's enough elite talent to go around.
Oh, I should add Miller Kopp is done after this season too, so that's at least 4 spots open.
So allowing Mike Woodson now more room to recruit how he wants to recruit, because he was kind of handcuffed when he got here a little bit with some players that had been offered already, the need to quickly fill and use the portal with, although it was, they were inexperienced with that. Now they've got more experience. He's got more experience in this game, a little bit different game than the NBA. And I don't just mean coaching. I'm talking about all the other crap you got to do that you don't have to deal with in the NBA. So learning to manage all of that. And he seems to have done it all in stride, man. He's never been stressed. He just managed, and the success is coming. It's been successful to me, and I see more success coming especially with what they have already recruited and who I think is going to end up here, Dylan. But they are truly doing exactly what Scott Dolson said that he wanted to do, and Mike Woodson said he wanted to do. Now, they haven't won a thing yet, and they haven't this particular team hasn't played a game. I think that they are going to compete for the Big Ten title. I'm trying to think who else, maybe Michigan. I think Illinois is going to be a more formidable opponent than maybe anybody else in the Big Ten. They've reloaded, but I don't know about everybody else yet. So we'll have to see. But Indiana will undoubtedly be one of the favorites to win the conference this year.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's interesting to go back to recruiting for just a second. I do think it's interesting. We're talking about all these guys and how they're building the program with this talent. None of these guys are from Indiana. Xavier Booker obviously seems like he's probably not going to end up at IU, which is a little bit disappointing because he's.
Do you still do now? Now, is that what you think? Or you still think that?
I don't have any special knowledge. I don't want to speak for him.
No. I'm just saying it's a guess. It's a feeling. Do you still feel, because you're closer? You're up there closer to Michigan State. So are you still feeling that Michigan State pool?
I mean, Michigan State, Duke is in there now too, so that's possible. To me, it sounds like if you're going after Arrington Page, and that seems to be the push that's happening right now, you're probably moving off Xavier Booker because you're getting the feeling that he's going elsewhere. Which that's understandable. He's a top 5 recruit in the country. He can go anywhere he wants. If Duke wants you have to at least listen, right? But it is interesting that these guys that they're building with, many talented players. I mean, Ja'Kai Newton and Gabe Cupps are talented. The guys they brought in, obviously, with Malik Renault and Jalen Hood-Schifino are 5-star guys. But none of those kids are from Indiana. And so I wonder whether that is a stopgap where they're going to try to go national for a few years until they start winning, and then that winning convinces the in-state kids to take a look, or whether that's going to be a long-term thing here.
Well, this class, Caleb, in Indiana is kind of buoyed between this year's class and the one after that. Right. The 24 classes, I'm not meaning to knock it, but it's not what the prior and the latter classes are. I mean, you go down to the 25 class, which I know that's a long way out, and I hate talking about stuff that's far out. But when you have talents like Trent Sisley and Jalen Harrelson and there's others, but those are the two that stand out to me from this state right now. They're unbelievable as incoming sophomores, and I'm like, golly, they're more physically imposing or more physically mature than I at 15 than I probably was at 22, maybe. It's nuts. But that's when I think they get back.
That's a low bar, Jim. It's a low bar.
Well, I'm just, you're not lying there, but that's when I think they get back to the Indiana, Dylan. That's when I think they start to get the hold. For 2 reasons. Number one, it's taken them, that timing, and the success. I think the success that I think they're going to have behind them by then, and that's just going to be a groundswell of momentum. And then you're going to have people. Then it's going to got to be the opposite. You're not going to be chasing as much as. That's when you get back to being. Indiana used to be a Duke. Bob Knight, man, when he didn't offer people in a weight. I think I've already told this story this week of Larry Bird when he finally got down there, and his coach left the room for a minute, said he had a phone call, comes back and says, Larry, that was just Purdue confirming your visit there next week, and right in front of Bob Knight. And this is John Laskowski told me the story, so it's fact. Told this story right. He told that right in front of Bob Knight while he's sitting there, and he said, that BS ain't happening. Larry, I want you to Indiana, and I want to know right now, are you coming to Indiana? And so he committed on the spot and canceled that Purdue visit. But yeah, this is a different day, man. These guys got options, and you've got to court them. But I think that the courting will be less for Indiana in a few years, and more of a, hey, Indiana just offered. So I think that they get to that point personally.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, Dylan. I think.
No, go ahead, Caleb.
I think it's kind of interesting to look. It's almost the inverse Archie Miller approach, right? He was so Indiana central, so inside out focused. Well, I don't think that they've necessarily intentionally pushed it outside in and gone national and reining it back into Indiana. I think that's just maybe the way things have worked out with their ties. You know, you see Roseman's from Atlanta. You know, Kenya Hunter with his ties on the East Coast and DMV area, and maybe, you know, Brian Walsh is a budding potential star in the recruiting world as well to handle, you know, all of the Midwest with his ties in there. So maybe they've been casting that net out wide due to connections, but they're certainly looking outside in right now. And like you said, there's just not necessarily the same level of talent coming up in the class of 24, even much of the class of 25 in the state of Indiana is not, you know, super high-end talent that they'd go after. You know, Sicily and Harrelson, well, where's the list after that? You know, Keenan Catchings is another guy on that list that they're interested in, but are they actually going to offer him? You know, so, you know, you see, you know, look at the finalists for Indiana Mr. Basketball every year, and you'll see, you know, 3 to 5, you know, kind of mid-major level players that are certainly quality D1 level basketball players, but they're not necessarily that top, you know, high-end talent, you know, like even a kid like CJ Gunn, who I think is grossly underrated. You know, I think his injury really hurt his chance to jump in the rankings. You know, he's another guy that.
But that's good. That's good because that puts less pressure on him. And I've said a lot that, you know, I watched CJ play, you know, in high school, and I watched him score a crap ton of points in the fourth quarter of games. I watched him take a lot of those shots that you got to be feeling good. You got to be feeling like I'm the man to take this shot. I saw him take that shot a lot. Now that's got to transfer over, and it's probably going to be a little bit of growing pains. But if he holds to confidence, is, I guess, did we take a break? I can't even remember.
We have not taken a break since Caleb came on.
No, we're still in.
Well, we got to take a break, but I know we got to take one. When we come back, we'll talk about CJ Gunn. We'll take a quick break. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from Reynolds Family Dentistry down in Sellersburg. You need that championship smile. I need to get down and see Dr. J. Reynolds. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting...
Hey, you didn't have to do that. I wasn't. That's why I didn't pop in. I knew you were kind of doing your thing.
Well, I knew we needed to take a break, but what are you, mowing the grass?
No, I asked you earlier if you heard my fan.
And I said fucking yes.
It's the same thing.
Well, turn it off.
I'm not turning it off. It's not like I'm in the show anyway. I'm here just to get you through breaks right now.
Well, you were right then when it comes on. When you pop in for the break, can you just turn it off?
Was my microphone on?
Yes. Oh, I could hear it.
Interesting. Huh.
It's
on right now. I know that for sure. But
I mean, I could barely hear myself speak. That's why I was saying it. Like right now, it's not like it was, but when you first popped on, I could not hear myself speak. So I don't know what that's going to sound like going out, but.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been thinking about Xavier Booker over the last couple of days, Jim, about how moving on. And Arrington Page is an incredibly talented player, so no slight to him. But if you're moving on him, it probably seems like you're moving off Xavier Booker. Would be my guess.
I bet you they're tired of. I bet he's just not giving them a feeling of. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not in it, so I don't know. But
because that's the thing is, usually with these recruits, if it's trending away from you, even if they've expressed interest publicly, if it's trending away from you, you can usually get that feeling. These guys are not going to string teams along generally. I think these guys, the coaches, are pretty good at being able to know, hey, we know where this is going. And that doesn't mean that you pull his offer or anything like that, because things could change. We've seen that plenty of times in the past. But yeah, I mean, it's you're probably only going to pull in 169 guy per class. I don't think they would take Xavier Booker and Arrington paid. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe they would do that, because you can never have too many 6'9" athletic guys. But that would just be my gut feeling.
I thought this was one of the rare instances where Duke jumping in and offering maybe helped Indiana. I thought it seemed like he was so magnetized to Michigan State that Duke poll created enough separation that Indiana might get slide right back in. I still don't think we're going to get him, but
and you don't have Mike Krzyzewski there anymore,
right? I mean, John Shire's already proven to be a very good recruiter, but the question is, if they go out there and only go 24-12 this season, then what do you do after that? Because then there's going to be whispers on the recruiting trail that Shire is not the same coach that Coach K was.
God, I can't even imagine ESPN if they only go 24-12. I can't imagine ESPN if they go like 30-6. Either way, it's going to be unbearable to me. But.
Yes, exactly. That every single one of their games is going to be much ado about something. It's
10 seconds. Here we go.
Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday, joined by Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette and Caleb Knost, contributor to the Hoosier.com, where you can go for complete live updates as today begins the final July evaluation period. Action going on down in North Augusta. The Nike EYBL, tons of IU targets down there. You can go to the forums page on the Hoosier.com and follow that as it's underway, baby. And you can actually, Caleb, people can watch too. There's a live stream they can grab, right?
Yeah. NikeEYB.com has a live stream available. You could also look at live box scores or Gamecast or whatever if you're, traveling or have to be quiet.
Let's see. Today, what's going on? I'm sure the IU coaches are going to be down there beginning today. So we'll see if they're all four there, or somebody's going to have to go to California, because Jamie Kaiser's playing in the 3SSB Adidas out in California, and I know that they want to show their love for him, because he's been one of the top players in the live sessions in June. He's a 6'6" wing that Indiana's really started to show some love to. See, where's El Marco going to be?
He plays Under Armour, doesn't he? I'm not sure where Under Armour's at.
Yeah, I can't remember. Well, they're up in Chicago, but yeah. So you got guys all spread all out. If that's the case, they've recently they offered El Marco. So, man, back to traveling, baby. That's a lot of traveling too, with that California thing. Whoo.
It wouldn't shock me if they were too deep in California for Jamie Kaiser. And I don't know that have to go to California is necessarily the right word if it's on IU's dime. maybe get to go recruit in California for a couple of days is how they might look at it, depending on what coach it is.
And now with the advent of USC, UCLA, you have to start making those appearances, because don't think that UCLA and USC are not going to start coming back this way. That's something that I was thinking about. I'm like, they're going to start recruiting Big Ten country too. because offer some kid, hey man, you want to come live in LA? Yeah, it don't sound too bad. So they're going to land some guys. Not that UCLA's landed guys before from Indiana. Yep, there you go. Man, that was a hard one for IU to lose.
Miles Johnson just went from Rutgers to UCLA, so they're already in Big Ten country. That'll be
interesting to see. But I am really looking forward, Dylan, to going to Pauley Pavilion and seeing Indiana playing UCLA in Pauley, baby. But the biggest question is, what is Bill Walton going to call? This is now the Conference of Champions. What's he going to do? His beloved UCLA, his beloved UCLA Bruins are now in the true Conference of Champions. But
it would be a really good bit if he just kept calling UCLA part of the Conference of Champions. If he just kept right on rolling like it had never been anything different, that would be a great bit from Bill Walton, which I honestly I could see him doing because he has that kind of sense of humor.
I personally love it. As long as he's not doing a game that I really want to watch, I love it. He just cracks me up. He's just a funny dude, man, and he does it on purpose.
I think trying to predict Bill Walton's next move is a fool's errand. Good luck.
I guarantee you I would think that he does not like UCLA or USC joining the Big Ten just because of his own history there. But how wild would that have been had back in the day UCLA already been in the Big Ten and John Wooden was the coach, coaching against Bob Knight? That would have been nuts. But all the things of history. But yeah, back at the Peach Jam is happening, going on today. What is there anything you're looking for specifically, Caleb?
So Peach Jam is a different beast. I mean, there's so much. Well, in the past, it's been so much pressure. Right now, it's diluted because they've got 40 teams there. It's like, I know I've already talked about Bronny, but when he was 15, that was when Nike first started doing 15s for EYBL. Now that he's in this team traditionally wouldn't have qualified for Peach Jam. Now they're qualified for Peach Jam, so they're expanding things. I won't pin it all on him, but it's a different level of pressure because it's like, all the rest of this has been the regular season. Now this is like the tournament. So, I don't look too much at specific numbers. You see some stand-up performances. McNeely put up 28 yesterday. You see, Eli Crawford, Dylan Harper both had 19 and, padded stats. But I just look for efficiency. I look to see which guys aren't turning the ball over, which guys are playing a lot of minutes, meaning that the coaches have their trust, looking at their assist-to-turnover ratio, seeing which guys are rebounding the basketball because guys are going to miss shots. I think it was who was it on here? TJ Power, hasn't shot the ball all that well, but he's, been doing 12, 8, and 5 through 3 games down there. And, they've got their point guard back. Reed Deshawn had 42 the other day, so that's knocked his scoring down. But God, I look for efficiency and I look for, minutes played because that means that they've got that coach's trust.
5 Left says he thinks Duncan is a quality big, and I'm not saying he's not at all. I'm not saying he can't become one. I'm just saying I don't think he is going to be in an Indiana uniform. I just think that I don't know. It's a guess. It's a total guess. And I just think that the level of elite talent that keeps coming in, Malik Renaud, if you can't match up to Malik Renaud, and I don't know if he can or not, then that's going to be an issue because there's going to be more of those coming. TJ Power, I don't know Indiana's going to end up with this dude, but he didn't have the greatest shooting performance so far during the Peach Jam. 9 of 30 thus far, which isn't horrible, but he had 11 points on 4 of 17 from the field on Sunday, and then 10 points on 5 of 13 yesterday. So, yeah, that's not what you're looking for to show off for in your coaches. But Indiana still in the hunt for a visit with him. They don't even have him for a visit. He'll be confirming dates after this week, according to Alec. and Power's teammate, BABC Reed, was it how you say that? Ducharme,
yeah.
Ducharme. He had 42 points last night. 42. He's up to 17 midway through the first half of a game. He had 17 through the midway of a game yesterday. Offers from Iowa, Northwestern, Syracuse, and others, but our rivals 150 wing.
Yeah, Penn State's pretty heavily involved with Reed Ducharme as well. So that's the only reason I've kept a lot of tabs on him. What kind of concerned me in that game was TJ Power only had 5 assists and Reed Ducharme had 42 points. I know their point guard Trey Norman's back, but with a guy who has as much volume and handling the ball as TJ Power does in their program, for him to only have 5 assists in that game when his teammate dropped 42, and a lot of those were heaves, deep threes, but it still was a little bit telling. Maybe some of that pressure of the Carolina, Duke, Kansas coming in the mix all at once, all rushed on him, and he's playing at peak shame. It's a culmination of a lot of things. That's a lot of weight to carry around once you get those offers. It's a blessing, but it's also, it's a double-edged sword sometimes.
Dylan?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing for IU is that with the end of the evaluation period, generally a lot of these guys probably want to get their commitments out of the way before the high school season starts at least. So you're going to see a lot of movement here, I would assume, in the next couple of months. So this is kind of now crunch time for Indiana. You get down to, all right, who are we actually in on? You kind of have to separate who we're actually in on versus who we'd like to have, but it's probably not going to happen. So I would assume we start hearing about that sometime in the next several weeks here.
We certainly will, and we'll be hearing a lot today of all the action that's going on with the coaches out, and we'll see who's where. Liam McNeely, you mentioned him. I don't see Indiana having a 0.1 chance to get him. Really, unless some kind of fantastic NIL deal fell out of the sky, because the last time I saw him playing, and he's from Texas, the entire Baylor staff was sitting at the end of the deal. And so I guarantee I don't see him leaving Texas, but who knows?
I don't think so. No, I mean, going to Montverde helps our case a little bit, but I think the big guys in Texas and maybe LSU and Alabama will have a shot. There's rumblings of Arizona, but he's going to stay in Texas for my money.
But he's a hell of a player. He's a big guy, man. I've seen, he's 6'7". He's like a 6'7" hybrid, guard forward hybrid. He can handle the ball. He can shoot the ball. He's got a body. He can handle it. He's a really quality get.
Hey, but I'll say this. I don't know that we need to get Liam McNeely because I think Trent Sisley's going to be that same kind of player anyways. And he's in state.
Yeah. The only difference is Liam McNeely is just older and more mature. Right. That's a great example and a perfect example because they're the same size, and Trent will fill out a little bit more, and I think they're going to be very, very similar players. It's a great call. Arrington Page, sure he'll be in action today.
He's not in North Augusta this week.
Oh, that's right. He's not. You say he's not playing, but he was supposed to be.
His team's playing TJ Power's team today, so that would have been a big op for the coaches. But yeah, I think a lot of the TSF guys just stayed home because I don't think they've qualified for the whatever it even is anymore, the semifinals or however it starts. The meaningful games in North Augusta now.
LeBron and Melo were down there, Dylan, checking things out yesterday.
I saw them. They were there together, just kind of hanging out. I think it always creates kind of like a whirlwind at these things when players like that come and show up and just kind of hang out because that's what they're doing is just kind of hanging out watching basketball like any other fan really.
Yeah, to keep up with what's going on down there, you're going to have to go to the Hoosier.com because it's there and it's laid out and you can see all the offers and all that. But it's a lot to talk about, man. It's a lot to keep straight because you got the current class, the next class, and the class after that, and who's this and blah, blah, blah. And that's a lot, but it's sure fun to talk about, and I appreciate you guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Caleb, thank you so much and look forward to doing this again. Well, we may check back a couple times during the week because this thing is going on all week. So don't be surprised to see Caleb again. Dustin, can't thank you enough as always. I will see you next week in person at Big Ten Media Days. So look forward to that. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Go 10 Caps. Boom, baby. Knock it out of the park. Have you ever gotten to throw out the first pitch?
I have not. I feel like that would be a breach of journalistic ethics to do that, unfortunately.
Ah, bull crap. That's throwing out the first pitch is all-American, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna don't make me start a personal crusade and start taking them out. I will. I'll have people start calling into them and writing them. Why is Dylan Sinn not throwing out the first pitch? He is loved in Fort Wayne, man.
Sure. Yeah. Let's go with that. I'll take that. I appreciate the support for my candidacy, Jim.
Absolutely. I don't know if John, the producer, saw this earlier. Our character Jim Harbaugh jumping on. Okay. I'm glad you still got that fan running. I forgot. His air conditioning is out today. That's why. I forgot. And I told first thing I told him, dude, check the filter. He said it's not the filter, so I get it. I hear you don't have to pop in. We'll get out. Man, I can't thank everybody enough. You guys have been great as always. Thanks to Dylan Sinn, of course. Thanks to Caleb Knost as well, but also Bob Kravitz, our buddy, and Kyle Neddenriep. He's be gone, but make sure you go to thehoosier.com if you want to keep up with everything that is going on around in recruiting this week, and it's a lot. Alec Lasley has got coverage. Keegan Nicholson is down there. And, of course, we've got Caleb Knost as well. Guys, go out and have yourselves a great day. We appreciate you more than anybody else because without you, there's no reason for us to be here. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I'll see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.